The truth that few say out loud: the universe tests more than it rewards, and often the word punish is something we use out of fear, not clarity. There is a paradox here. Those who most complain about bad luck are often the same people who didn't prepare their house to receive what was promised. Listen carefully, because this may hurt a little and also set you free. I'll say it plainly. Opportunities don't fall simply because someone deserves them. They knock where they find structure. If you've ever felt an almost that evaporated, know this is not chance. It's a diagnosis. Today, he will reveal the tests few pass, and how each test can be turned into a practical protocol without mysteries. There will be real stories, analogies that strip the emotion away, and 1 to 2 minute exercises you can apply right now. The immediate reward? A clear map to distinguish confirmation from illusion, and a small action that aligns your next step with the universe. Pay attention. By the end of this video, you'll have a mini plan to start training like the 1%. Not to get lucky, but to be recognized by luck. The glimpse that fades, the sign of the almost. He sees a brief light on the horizon, a flash that rises as promise and then disappears. The seeker feels the body vibrate, an almost that warms hope and is enough to move the heart. The mentor watches with tenderness. That glimpse is a signal, not a guaranteed ticket. Breathe, accept the invitation of the glimpse, but learn to distinguish signal from precarious certainty. And so, without hurry, he prepares the boat, never confusing the lighthouse with a passenger. The universe offers clues and then soon takes them back to see what remains on the shelf of actions. He learns that the withdrawal is not punishment, it's a test of strategy and maturity. When the opportunity evaporates, the practical question remains: what was done while the light shone? The mentor recommends meditative calm and attention to detail. Small attitudes reveal a lot. Without panic, the seeker organizes the plan. The glimpse becomes a compass, not a receipt. There was an almost that turned into a lesson, a deal that nearly closed and unraveled at the last moment. He remembers the anxiety, the inner promises, the emotional investment without guarantees. Afterward came the lesson: review proposals, strengthen proofs of concept, secure clear contracts. That episode became a support point, not a grievance, because it transformed almost into a map for adjustment. The narrator smiles quietly. He learned to distinguish impulse from true alignment. Imagine a lighthouse that points to the shore but never boards the boat to row with you. The light shows where solid ground is, but the crossing still requires your hands on the helm. He observes that many confuse the shine with continuous providence, and they founder. The analogy soothes, recognizing the lighthouse is wise, expecting it to row is naive. So trim the sails, tend the hull, and let the light be a guide, not a shield. Practical exercise. In 60 seconds, write down 3 actions you can adjust after a glimpse. Mentor suggestions. 1. Align the goal with a short deadline. 2. Ask for honest feedback. 3. Set up a quick test. He encourages simplicity. Small actions make big differences for the next step. Do it now with slow breaths. Writing clarity changes the body and adjusts the energy. When finished, put the paper away. It will be a reminder for when the light fades and the work continues. Glimpse is confirmation, not guarantee. He repeats this line like a discreet mantra. That distinction brings serenity. Confirm the intention without staking your soul on the promise. He learns to celebrate the clue and to prepare execution without empty heroics. The mentor proposes a short ritual. Thank the glimpse and define one immediate micro-action. Thus, the seeker turns shine into process and hope into gentle discipline. In practice, responding to a glimpse requires combined humility and proactivity. He recommends creating a confirmation checklist: signals, resources, next steps. Note evidence, schedule meetings, validate hypotheses, simple acts that show preparedness. This behavior separates those who merely desire from those who have the capacity to manifest. And quietly, he rehearses kindness to himself when the tide starts rising again. The glimpse fades, and then another test usually arrives disguised as a small gift. The mentor already sees it. After the flash, the universe often sends a sample to test management. If he knows how to manage the almost, the next door opens with less noise and more clarity. Here's the hook. How will he handle this small gift when it appears tomorrow? The small gift, the test of stewardship. He received a small gift, a drop of favor, an unexpected bonus, and smiled. At first, the joy is pure, unexamined. The heart celebrates and the mind relaxes. The mentor notes, this distribution from the universe is a test. It must be managed with care. Breathe. A conscious 3-second pause before acting. That pause says a lot about worthiness. Without haste, he learns that an immediate reaction reveals financial and emotional character. There was a day he got something unexpected and spent it without thinking, he tells softly. The extra ice cream became a habit. The reward turned into routine, and then the margin disappeared. The example seems simple, but it shows how you treat small things determines how you'll receive the big. The mentor suggests imagining the child's ice cream, a choice that can become a pattern. He concludes kindly, conserving the mind is more valuable than conserving only money. The small gift is a proving ground for administration and practical planning. He proposes a simple rule. Pause 10 seconds and ask, does this bring me closer to the goal? If the answer is yes, act. If not, give thanks and redirect the energy with grace. Practical examples. Turn a bonus into a micro-investment, pay a debt, or buy a course to learn. These small compounded acts build credibility before the universe and within yourself. In his story, he remembers when a sudden gain dissolved earlier priorities. The impulse to spend brought momentary relief, and later, a shadow of regret. From the mistake came a protocol, part to reserves, part to growth, part to conscious celebration. The mentor details divide into 3 jars: safety, investment, mindful celebration. Gentle discipline creates a pattern that, over time, becomes automated behavior. The ice cream analogy helps understand the logic of the test. Small today, large tomorrow. One child receives a ball and treats it carefully. Another rips it. The futures diverge. He teaches that managing the small is training for greater responsibility. With slow breaths, the seeker learns to make choices that echo into the future. Thus, each small gift is a repeated test, a miniature school. Practical exercise. When you receive something small today, stop 10 seconds and ask the key question. Mentor suggestions. Turn the question into a habit. Stick it on the mirror or set a phone reminder. Real applications. A tip, a discount, a small bonus. Use 1/3 for growth. If you like, he can recommend practical books on behavioral finance to start, e.g., The Richest Man in Babylon. This practice turns impulses into strategy and silence into financial clarity. Managing the small demonstrates operational ethics and emotional maturity. He notes that those who ignore these small tests often lose the big doors later. The mentor advises to celebrate in moderation and to invest in the capacity to retain. Well-managed small victories become symbolic capital and later real capital. Here's the hook. If the small gift tests stewardship, the next test demands solvency. The universe doesn't only give, it watches how you return what it receives. If the response to the gift is careless, the flow reduces. If wise, it expands. And so naturally, the next chapter arises. Challenges that demand greater solvency. The seeker breathes, ready to face the pressure that transforms luck into sustainment. The extreme challenge, the solvency test. He walks into the fire when life tightens. That period when everything seems to conspire against him. Crisis arises as a test, not to destroy, but to reveal the real capacity to resolve. The mentor watches with compassion. Solvency is not only money, it's resources, creativity, resilience. Breathe deeply. Under pressure, character becomes the tool and practical intelligence appears. There is an implicit invitation. Turn pain into a learning laboratory. He remembers well the time the bills tightened and his head turned to knots. Sleep was lost, confidence wavered, and for a moment the route seemed irreversible. However, that period taught him to prioritize, negotiate, and cut the superfluous. The episode taught that a well-managed crisis creates competencies that never disappear. The mentor tells the story without glamour, simply to prove that pain can become steel. The pressure cooker analogy helps understand the transformative process. Heat is not a villain. It's an agent that changes the structure of matter and of being. Under pressure, what is light evaporates. What is dense transforms into something new. He suggests, accept the heat, adjust the valve, and use the steam to cook the next plan. This image calms fear and shows that transformation requires measurable components. At the core of the test is the ability to solve complex puzzles with limited resources. He recommends a practical step: map resources, list alternatives, and prioritize tasks. Applicable examples: renegotiate debts, cancel non-essential subscriptions, sell what's unused. These simple actions change the flow and show the universe that there is management capacity. The seeker learns that creativity in crisis is currency as valuable as capital. Practical exercise: reframe aloud in 3 sentences for 60 seconds. Mentor suggestions: this is happening to me because I need to strengthen X. Another: this happens so I discover my hidden resources. And the third: I will come out of this better equipped and with clearer priorities. Repeating changes the lens changes action, action alters the result. He remembers that in crisis, emotion often sabotages the noblest reasoning. The first task is calming the body, slow breaths and a minimal action structure. Creating small daily wins cuts anxiety and proves solvency step by step. The mentor suggests micro-daily tasks that generate momentum and rebuild confidence. Each small success is a brick on the bridge that crosses the storm. Solvent performance in crisis separates those destined to rise from those who remain at level ground. Practical skill plus inner calm, real solvency, not mere desire. He emphasizes that many have vision, but few can operate under fire. Pressure reveals who practices and who only dreams. It is therefore a catalyst. And the hook. When pressure tests, the next challenge often arrives in public. Extreme challenges prepare one for exposure, the moment others watch and judge. If solvency was built, public criticism will have little power to topple you. He closes the topic softly with an invitation. Are you ready to face other people's opinions? The haters and the naysayers, the public congruence test. He feels the cold breath of contrary voices, sharp opinions that cut tranquility. In the public arena, every movement can be observed. External reactions test inner coherence. The mentor teaches, criticisms are not just sound. They are a mirror revealing where conviction wavers. Breathe slowly. Allow the inner voice to validate the path before the noise brings you down. The stance before judgment is a thermometer. It reveals whether the mission is performative or rooted. There was an acidic comment that almost knocked him down, a tossed phrase that hit the pride. He remembers the surprise, the momentary flush, and the urge to immediately retaliate. But he chose to pause, answer with composure, and use the critique to refine his message. The mentor recounts this episode as a practical demonstration. Reacting calmly is discipline. By turning an attack into data, he gained clarity and lost the need to prove himself. Analogy: the wind that tests the tree's roots. Those with deep roots do not easily fall. Criticism is wind. Congruence is the root system that keeps direction steady. Those who plant deep values do not need applause to exist. They need practice. He suggests cultivating routines that reaffirm identity so the wind only clears leaves. This cultivation is silent, consistent, and eventually visible by the peace it carries in the face of tests. Practical exercise. Create a short affirmation to repeat when criticism arises. Mentor's suggestion: I follow my vibration. Simple, meditative, and anchoring. Practice for 30 seconds. Speak, breathe, feel the center return to the chest before acting. Stick the phrase on the mirror or the phone to consolidate the calm reflex in crisis. Repeating conditions the response, less impulsive reaction, more inner alignment. He explains that haters often reflect fear, envy, or confusion in others. This is not an excuse to delegate blame. It's a map. Understanding the motive behind criticism helps evolve. However, discerning the useful from the toxic is an art. Not every critique deserves a response or change. The mentor teaches a mental sieve: separate helpful corrections from destructive noise. This skill preserves energy and turns opposition into an adjustment parameter. Public congruence is not built in days. It's the work of habits, character, and integrity. He outlines practices: transparency when needed, humility when wrong, firmness when upholding vision. In networks and meetings, consistent behavior speaks louder than eloquent words. Those who live aligned with their values see criticism as a knock on the door, an opportunity to check. Thus, exposure ceases to be a threat and becomes a lab for strengthening. Practically, he recommends 3 actions before responding to an attack: breathe, pause, consult. Consulting can mean a real mentor, a journal, or simply waiting 24 hours before reacting. These small intervals avoid unnecessary conflicts and turn impulse into strategy. The seeker gains time to evaluate whether the response will be a declaration of value or fuel for drama. Here's the hook. After learning to deal with others' opinions, the test of inner detachment follows. Reaction to judgment reveals consistency, and consistency becomes a quiet reputation. Those who answer with serenity show they were not forged by applause nor by boos. And so, by calming the wind, the next chapter approaches: the loss that cleanses and reorganizes. Loss as cleansing, the detachment test. Loss arrives as a silence that cuts the old noise and reveals new space. He feels the emptiness first, the resistance afterwards. It's natural, not a failure. The mentor explains, the universe removes to open ground. Nature always works this way. Breathe slowly, allow the grief, and watch the place that's clean after the storm. This clearing prepares the soil for something not yet sown. There was a loss he remembers with affection and surprise, something that in the moment hurt deeply. He lost a door that seemed final, and only later noticed the corridor that opened. In the silence after the loss, invitations and meetings came that previously didn't fit the agenda. The narrator tells it without dramatizing. He turns the episode into a map of trust. The story serves as a reminder. The closing was rearrangement, not punishment. Analogy: a field plowed before new sowing. The soil needs turning. Old roots are pulled out so the new can form firm foundations. He suggests viewing loss as technical preparation, not moral failure or personal defeat. This lens shift reduces suffering and expands the range of conscious action. Seeing the plow is seeing purpose, where before there was only difficult forgiveness. Practical exercise. Write 3 possible benefits of that loss, even if you don't see them yet. The mentor guides. Be specific. Name doors that may open, people you might meet. Even if the answers seem small, this exercise repositions the mind toward opportunity. Once done, breathe, fold the paper and keep it. Return to it in 7 days to review signs. The practice trains active detachment, not emotional nullification, but intentional realignment. He explains that detachment is not coldness, it's emotional intelligence applied to impermanence. Accepting loss means freeing energy that was anchored to what was gone. With that freed energy come new skills: creativity, courage, renewed focus. The mentor gives an example. Someone who loses a job may rediscover vocation or build a business. Losing is often the push the soul needed to reorganize. In daily practice, he recommends small release rituals for each loss lived. A simple ritual: write, give thanks, symbolically tear the paper, and plant a clear intention. These outward gestures help the body accept inner reality. They are bridges between mind and soul. Small rites turn despair into direction and pain into a road paved with meaning. With consistency, detachment becomes a skill, not a sporadic attitude. The detachment test reveals who clings out of fear and who opens from trust. He notes many confuse attachment with identity. Separating them is essential work. The mentor encourages, practice losing small things to train letting go of the large ones. The freedom born of detachment is active calm. It is not escape, it is clarity of choice. And the subtle hook: letting go creates space, but then the internal conflict between old and new appears. Loss clears, but it also highlights the old voices that resist change. Soon after the clearing, internal dissonance may arise: who he was and who he wants to be. This is the next test, deep and daily, which will demand courage to choose a new identity. The internal conflict, the old self versus new self test. Inside him live two tenants, old habit and new intention, each with their emotional furniture. The house becomes cramped when both insist on occupying the same space at the same time. The mentor watches patiently. This dispute is a sign of evolution, not moral failure. Breathe deeply. Hearing the resistance is part of the process, not a call to give up. Accepting the dissonance is the first step in choosing which tenant will stay. There was a moment when he wanted to behave like someone else to fit into the surrounding context. He tried adopting speech, habits, even clothes that weren't his. The discomfort arrived quickly. Internal resistance showed itself as insomnia, irritation, and loss of taste for simple things. The mentor relates this without judgment. It's a common and instructive experience for those who decide to change. The lesson was clear. Being someone else requires energy that steals from your true purpose. Analogy: two tenants in the same house. One must leave so the other can live in peace. It's not a violent eviction. It's compassionate negotiation with parts that hold old memories. He suggests a map. Identify old beliefs, name them, and negotiate a smaller role for them. This practice turns conflict into inner conversation, reduces noise, and creates space for the new. With small concessions, the inner house rearranges without trauma and with wisdom. Practical exercise. Visualize for 60 seconds the new self handling the current situation. The mentor guides, eyes closed, long breaths. Imagine concrete actions of the new habit. Detail the scenario, the tone of voice, the choice, the small routine that confirms the new identity. Then write 2 actions the new self would take tomorrow. Execute one immediately. Visualization creates neural paths. The short action begins to pave the new route. He explains that internal conflict is the sign of a bridge being built between past and future. Persistence in the new is not force, but practice, repetition, compassion, and constant adjustments. The mentor recommends micro-commitments daily that reinforce the new perception without rupture. For example, choose an anchor word or a gesture that marks the internal decision. In time, the old tenant becomes a useful memory. The new one takes the main room. In practice, many confuse discipline with violence against themselves. True healing requires structured kindness, firm limits, simple rewards, and honest review. He suggests creating a small contract with oneself, 3 changes, a short deadline, weekly review. This contract gives traction to transformation without demanding perfection, only persistent presence. Thus, the dissonance becomes a laboratory, and the new self strengthens with real evidence. The internal conflict test reveals whether change is superficial or a true manifestation. Those who persist despite resistance demonstrate alignment between intention and practice. The mentor reminds that patience is a tool. Big changes require time and care. And the hook: by taming this conflict, the seeker will be ready to read signs and confirmations. The confirmation test: repeated signs and numerology. He begins to notice patterns, numbers, encounters, words that return like a soft echo. Repeated signs grow stronger when the seeker is already aligned and searching with clarity. The mentor warns against rushing to interpret everything as immediate confirmation. Breathe deeply. Distinguishing a true compass from illusion requires patience and criteria. Repetition is an invitation to action, not a substitute for action. There was a sequence of signs he interpreted as a path, and he was mistaken. A repeated detail became a false narrative, and he followed a dead-end shortcut. He later learned to check: signal plus external evidence plus practical step. Real confirmation. The account teaches humility. Intuitions need verification through tangible results. The mentor always recommends looking for proofs that speak to each other before acting. Analogy: an echo on the mountain. It repeats what you emit but doesn't build a new map. If you shout go, the mountain repeats go, but it doesn't build a bridge. You must walk. A good sign complements your effort. It doesn't replace your responsibility. He uses the image to calm. Hearing echoes is beautiful. Trusting them blindly is risky. So integrate signs with concrete work. This is the filter that separates noise from guide. Practical exercise. Write down signs from the last 72 hours and pose a clear question to the universe. The mentor suggests a simple format: date, sign, context, feeling, suggested action. Then formulate one direct sentence question and put it on paper. Universe, should I X? Clarity in the question eliminates ambiguity and allows signs to function as guidance. Writing creates a contract with reality and turns perception into an operational criterion. He explains why numerology and symbols work. They are attention shortcuts. When the mind is tuned, small stimuli become perceived confirmations. But remember, confirmation without action is superstition. Confirmation with action is transformation. The mentor advises documenting small victories to validate whether the sign truly points the way. With a journal and action, signs stop being magical and become navigation tools. In daily practice, he recommends gentle skepticism. Believe with feet on the ground. Ask yourself, does this sign give practical information or merely emotional comfort? If it gives information, design a 24 to 72-hour experiment to test it simply. Experimentation controls illusion and builds confidence based on evidence, not wish. Thus, the seeker learns to read signs wisely and not get lost in enchantments. Some signs repeat because the universe wants rhythm. Some repeat because you insist. Discerning between the two requires self-knowledge. What have you been emitting in thought and action? The mentor suggests aligning intention, observation, and behavior so the echo becomes useful. When these three align, the sign becomes confirmation, and confirmation becomes acceleration. And the hook, with signs integrated into action, the final test appears, the 1% Trinity. Recognizing signs requires calm record-keeping and practical verification. Don't rush to believe. He concludes this chapter reminding that confirmation is a process. Observe, test, act. With this habit, the seeker reduces error and increases the precision of future decisions. The final test of the 1%, the Trinity: vision, management, serenity. He reaches the apex, a test that does not forgive improvisation. Vision, management, and serenity appear as an inseparable trio. Vision clarifies direction. Management converts intention into steps. Serenity prevents everything from breaking by attachment. The mentor notes that having only one piece is not enough. The 1% are those who train all three at once. Breathe slowly. Imagining all the gears working in harmony is already half the work done. Those who cultivate these pillars build an internal architecture that answers the call without desperation. He always uses a practical comparison. Two people start the same with promise and desire. The first remains only in vision, pretty phrases, wish lists, and little concrete execution. The second builds habits, a step-by-step spreadsheet, daily calm training, and small intentional wins. Over time, the second advances. The first repeats cycles of enthusiasm, followed by frustration. The mentor points out, the difference is not luck, it's systematic training of the three elements. Analogy: three keys that open a safe simultaneously. Without anyone, the safe remains closed. Vision is the first key, management the second, serenity the third. The three turn together. If one key sticks, he suggests lubricating it, strategy adjustment, emotional training, or technical learning. This image helps keep practical humility. Opening doors requires synchronicity, not mystical haste. He invites seeing each key as a cultivable skill, not an innate gift. In the comparative example, the person who trains vision without management becomes an elegant dreamer but ineffective. Someone with management without serenity burns out. They execute but explode at the first setback. Serenity without vision becomes passivity. Without management, it becomes sterile contemplation. Therefore, the Trinity is practical balance, intention, competence, and peace that allows calculated risk. The mentor recommends daily exercises to strengthen each pillar in proportion and consistency. Final practical exercise. Mini protocol 3+1, 2 minutes. Breathe 3 deep conscious breaths. Then pronounce a short, powerful identity phrase. For example, I am able to create with calm. Next, Perform one small action that moves you closer to the goal today. Send a message, sketch a plan. Repeat the protocol in the morning for 3 days and observe the alignment between feeling, thinking, and doing. This short ritual integrates vision, management, and serenity into a simple, repeatable step. He emphasizes that the 1% is not just talent, it's routine, habits that accumulate and become character. Minimal gestures, repeated with calm and clarity, open roads that big plans never cross. The mentor reminds, consistency with tranquility transforms fragility into inner compactness. Practice the mini protocol as daily training. It is the microeconomy of larger transformation. And so, those who persist in the Trinity build systems the universe recognizes as ready. Takeaway: being part of the 1% is aligning lucid intention, operational competence, and serene detachment. This shows up in decisions where emotion is guided by processes, not momentary impulses. The seeker who combines these virtues receives different opportunities, not always easy, but usable. The mentor concludes in a low voice, "It's training, not magic. Method, not luck. Calm, not haste." Here's the subtle hook. With the Trinity trained, what will be your first great courageous action today? He breathes deeply and makes knowledge the first action of the day. Let it be clear, knowing without applying is empty admiration. Applying without sense is wasted action. Therefore, the final invitation is simple and direct, a kindness with discipline. Execute the mini protocol 3G1 today. 3 conscious breaths. 1 identity phrase that both wounds and strengthens you. 1 small action that moves the energy. Do it now or schedule it as a priority for your day. The real test is not what you feel, it's what you do. Questions that both challenge and awaken. Which almost will you turn into a map this week? What small gift have you received and not yet managed wisely? Which crisis, however severe, could be your forge? And what practical step will you take today to resolve it? Answer in the comments with a concrete action. Be specific. Today I will send X at Y o'clock. This community learns from real steps. Your courage to try inspires others to try too. A provocative challenge. Stop waiting for external confirmation and build signals with your own hands. Document 72 hours of signs. Run a 48-hour experiment based on them. Report the result. If fear is what holds you back, turn that fear into practical curiosity. What can I test now? Real change is made of evidence, not polished wishes. Test, observe, adjust, repeat. If this content touched you, here are the easy next steps. Comment below 1 action you will take today, even if small. Like this video if the message brought clarity. That helps spread the principle. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next practical exercises. They will be the glue of your learning. Subscribing is not a formality. It's a quiet commitment to yourself to continue the training. Being part of the 1% is not a mystical privilege. It's habit sculpted in daily life. Small gestures repeated with calm transform destiny and build recognition from the universe. Go, act, tell us what happened, and come back so we can report and refine the protocol together.